There was a moment here in Australia, when the wind seemed to whisper more than simply breeze. Not the wind through a suburb where the median house price is a number that requires you to sit down when you first encounter it, where the deposit alone is a decade of saving, where the conversation about ownership has been replaced by the conversation about whether ownership is even possible anymore. The wind across land that you can own. Land with a structure on it. A roof, walls, a door that is yours to open and close. Land that costs less than the car in the driveway of the house you cannot afford to buy. There are properties in Australia that you can purchase for less than the price of a new car. Not land without water. Not ruins without roofs. Actual properties, with structures, with titles, with the legal and physical reality of ownership, available right now for prices that most Australians have been told are no longer possible in this country. We are counting down 10 Australian properties you can buy for less than a car. Some are in towns that most Australians have never heard of. Some are in landscapes so extraordinary that the price feels like a misprint. Some are in communities that are actively seeking new owners because they understand that empty properties are the first stage of a town's disappearance and they are not ready to disappear. And one property type is available in a location so unusual that the ownership experience is unlike anything else in the country, because you would be living underground, in a home carved from rock, in one of the most isolated and extraordinary places in the southern hemisphere. One property sold last year for $18,000. It has a roof, a kitchen, and a view of country that landscape painters have been trying to capture for a century. Another is available now for $22,000 in a town where the pub has been open since the 1890s and your neighbors will know your name before you have finished unpacking. And yes, one location has properties available for prices so low that the annual rates and insurance cost more in the first year than the property itself. Think you know what property ownership costs in Australia? Let's find out if you are ready for the places where that assumption falls apart. Where the barrier to ownership is not the price but the decision to be somewhere that most people have decided is too far, too small, or too different from what they imagined owning would look like. Like this video if you have ever looked at a property price and felt the specific frustration of a number that keeps moving away from you. Subscribe because one day you will want to know where the numbers stopped moving. And this channel is your guide to the places where ownership is still possible and the car in the driveway costs more than the house it is parked beside. Let's break it down. Number 10. Hawker, South Australia. Hawker sits at the southern gateway to the Flinders Ranges in South Australia, population around 300 people, and it is the last service town before the road climbs into the ranges proper. The last petrol station, the last supermarket, the last pub before the country opens up into the ancient geological landscape that has been drawing painters and photographers and people who need to be near something genuinely old for over a century. Properties in Hawker are available from between $30,000 and $65,000 for houses in varying conditions. Some requiring work, some move-in ready, all of them representing a price point that has not existed within 200 kilometers of any major Australian city for decades. The Flinders Ranges Council area has been actively working to support new residents and the community has the energy of a place that understands what it has and is looking for people who understand it too. The Flinders Ranges begin immediately behind the town. Will pay £1. The great natural amphitheatre of the Ranges, one of the genuinely iconic Australian landscapes, is 1 hour north. The Elder Range. The Brushmen Gorge geological trail where the rock record of 500 million years of Earth history is exposed in the walls of a single gorge. All of it accessible from a property that costs less than the car you drive to reach it. The cost of living in Hawker is around 26% below the national average. Port Augusta, with a hospital and full regional services, is 60 kilometers south. The medical center in Hawker covers general needs. One person who bought a property in Hawker wrote, "I paid $38,000 for a house at the edge of the Flinders Ranges. The ranges are visible from my kitchen window. The annual rates are $1,200. The painting I bought of Will paint £1 in a gallery in Adelaide cost more than my house. I think about that regularly." The trade-off is the genuine smallness of the community, the distance from specialist services, and the specific challenge of a town at the edge of things where the infrastructure contracts as the population does, and the two processes feed each other in ways that require commitment to interrupt. Picture this. It is a morning in the Flinders Ranges. The light is coming up over the Elder Range in the specific way that the light comes up over ancient stone. Slowly, evenly, making everything glow in a register that has no name in standard color vocabulary. Your property cost $38,000. The ranges are in the window. The car in your driveway cost more than the house it is parked beside. You have thought about this and decided it is the correct arrangement. Number 9. Menindee, New South Wales. Menindee sits on the Darling River in outback New South Wales, population around 500 people, and it is the town beside the lakes that fill in wet years and become one of the great wildlife spectacles in inland Australia, pelicans arriving in their thousands, the dry clay transforming to living water, the country doing what this country does when the rain finally comes, which has become extraordinary without warning or ceremony. Properties in Menindee are available from between $28,000 and $50,000 for houses in the lower price range, with some requiring varying degrees of work. The New South Wales government's regional support programs apply to the area, and the community has been actively working to attract new residents following the water management challenges of recent years that have both affected the town and drawn attention to it. The Darling River is the context. The river system, the lakes, the bird life when the water is high, these are the things that residents of Menindee have access to as daily geography rather than destination experiences. The pelicans. The cormorants. The specific silence of a floodplain when the water is on it and the country is doing what it was designed by a million years of evolution to do. The cost of living is around 24% below the national average. Broken Hill, with a hospital and full regional services, is 112 kilometers west. The medical center in Menindee covers general needs. One buyer who purchased a property in Menindee wrote, "I paid $32,000 for a house 2 streets from the Darling River. The year I moved in, the lakes filled for the first time in years. I watched pelicans arrive from my front porch for 3 days. The property cost less than the deposit I had been saving for something in the city. I stopped saving for the city property the week I arrived." The trade-off is the uncertainty of the river system, the isolation from major services, and the specific weight of a community that has been through genuine hardship in recent years and is rebuilding with the determination of people who have decided that this place is worth the effort. Picture this. It is a morning when the lakes are full. The pelicans are doing what pelicans do when the water comes back, which is arrive in numbers that make the question of where they were before seem unanswerable. The Darling is running. Your property cost $32,000. The river has been here longer than anyone's planned for it. This morning it is high and the birds are here, and owning this has cost you less than a car. Number 8. Ravenswood, Queensland. Ravenswood sits in the dry hills south of Townsville in North Queensland, population around 200 people, and it is a gold mining ghost town that never quite finished dying. The mine has reopened periodically over 150 years, each time bringing a brief return of energy before closing again and leaving the town to find its own reasons to remain. Properties in Ravenswood are available from between $22,000 and $50,000 for houses in the lower price range, with the Imperial Hotel, operating in various forms since 1903, as the social center of a community that has refused to entirely disappear. The buildings from the Gold Rush era are among the best preserved 19th-century structures in Queensland. The Bank of New South Wales building, the courthouse, the hotel. All of it intact, all of it present, all of it part of the daily geography of a community of 200 people. Charters Towers, with a hospital and supermarkets, is 50 kilometers away. Townsville, with full regional services and an international airport, is 130 kilometers north. The cost of living is around 22% below the national average. The landscape around Ravenswood is dry and particular. The ranges behind the town, the dry creek beds, the eucalypts in the colors they turn in drought years, the interior of North Queensland that the coast obscures and that most visitors to the region never reach. One person who bought in Ravenswood wrote, "I paid $28,000 for a house in a town that has been almost dying for 150 years and has not managed it yet. The pub has been open since 1903. The building I sleep in was built in 1891. I am living inside history at a price that I cannot make sense of by any measure I was taught to use. I have stopped trying to make sense of it and started living in it instead. The trade-off is extreme summer heat, limited services, a community economy that rises and falls with the mine's fortunes, and the genuine uncertainty of a town whose persistence has required a century and a half of stubbornness and may require more." Picture this. It is an evening at the Imperial Hotel. The building has been here since 1903. The drinks are cold. Outside, the dry hills of North Queensland are doing what they do in the last light, turning the color of Queensland interior country at dusk, which is a color that does not have a standard name. Your property cost $28,000. The pub has outlasted every reason to close. You are here. Tonight that is enough. Number 7. White Cliffs, New South Wales. White Cliffs sits in outback New South Wales, population around 200 people, and it was the site of Australia's first commercial opal field, the White Claypan Hills scarred by 130 years of digging, the landscape of extraction turned into the landscape of habitation, the specific atmosphere of a place where the ground has been turned inside out in the search for something beautiful and has not entirely recovered and is more interesting for it. Properties in White Cliffs are available from between $15,000 and $45,000, including dugout properties, homes carved into the hillsides in the style of Kuberpidi, that maintain a constant cool temperature regardless of the surface heat that regularly exceeds 50 degrees. The dugout ownership experience is unlike anything else available at this price point in the country. You are buying not just a property but a relationship with the earth that is entirely different from conventional above-ground living. Wilcannia, with a hospital and basic services, is 98 kilometers south. Broken Hill is 300 kilometers southeast. The cost of living is around 28% below the national average for housing, though goods are higher due to supply chain distance. The solar farm at White Cliffs, one of Australia's first, built in 1981, is still operating, a piece of energy history in the middle of the outback. One dugout owner wrote, "I paid $19,000 for a dugout in White Cliffs. It is 22 degrees inside every day of the year regardless of what the surface is doing. The opals and the surrounding hills are still there, people still find them. The first commercial opal field in Australia is my backyard." That sentence cost me $19,000 and a decision to be somewhere most people drive through without stopping. The trade-off is extreme isolation, extreme heat above ground, very limited services, and the specific psychological challenge of a community so remote that self-sufficiency is not a lifestyle choice but the basic condition of existence. Picture this. It is noon and 48 degrees above the White Claypan Hills. You are in your dugout at 22 degrees, which is what it is every day, because the earth maintains this temperature regardless of what the surface decides to do. Above you the opal fields extend in every direction. Your property cost $19,000. The first commercial opal field in Australia is outside your door. The heat is up there. You are down here. This is ownership. This is what $19,000 buys when you know where to look. Number 6. Manor Hill, South Australia. Manor Hill sits in the far north of South Australia on the Barrier Highway between Broken Hill and Adelaide, population around 30 people, and it is the kind of place that exists at the absolute edge of what constitutes a community, 30 people, a pub, a railway siding, and the specific determination of people who have decided that 30 people is enough to be a town if the 30 people decide it is. Properties in Manor Hill are available from between $8,000 and $25,000, the lowest prices on this list and among the lowest for any habitable property in Australia. The structures require varying degrees of work and the infrastructure of the town is minimal, but the legal reality of ownership is the same at $8,000 as it is at $800,000, and the sky above Manor Hill at night, with no significant light pollution for 300 kilometers in every direction, is the sky that the rest of the country has stopped being able to see. Broken Hill, with a hospital and full regional services, is 160 kilometers east. The Barrier Highway passes through town and provides the occasional reminder that the world outside Mana Hill exists and is accessible, if distant. The outback landscape around Mana Hill, the Mulga, the Gibber, the Dry Creek systems, is the landscape of far outback South Australia, a landscape so old and so emptied by geological time that it produces in people who spend time in it a specific kind of quietness that has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with scale. One property owner who bought in Mana Hill wrote, "I paid $11,000 for a property in a town of 30 people. The night sky is the most extraordinary thing I have seen in my life, and I see it every night. The pub is open on weekends. The highway goes past. 30 people decided this is enough to be a town, and I am one of them now, and I find that I agree. The trade-off is the most extreme version of the trade-offs on this list. Minimal services, genuine isolation, a community so small that its continuation depends on the individual decisions of each of its 30 members, and a level of self-sufficiency required that most city dwellers have never had occasion to develop. Picture this. It is a night in Mana Hill. There are 30 people in this town, and the sky above them is the sky that most of the country has traded for the glow of cities that promise more than they reliably deliver. Your property cost $11,000. The pub closes in an hour. The highway is quiet. 30 people decided this is a town. You are one of them. The sky is doing what the sky does out here, which is everything. Number 5. Lee Creek, South Australia. Lee Creek sits in the northern Flinders Ranges of South Australia, population around 300 people, and it has the specific character of a place that was built for one purpose and is finding another. A company town, constructed by the electricity utility to house coal mine workers, that was sold off to private owners when the mine closed in 2016 and has since been slowly reinventing itself as a community in which the ownership of the houses is genuinely affordable. Properties in Lee Creek were sold off at prices between $15,000 and $40,000 when the government divested the town's housing stock following the mine closure. Some of these properties have since changed hands at prices still well below $50,000. The town has modern infrastructure, sealed roads, connected utilities, a school, a medical center, a supermarket, because it was designed and built to a standard appropriate for a functional workforce community, which means it has amenities that most towns at this price point do not. The Flinders Ranges are the landscape. The Gammon Ranges begin to the north, and the country around Lee Creek, the gorges, the ancient rock, the specific light of the northern Flinders, is the landscape that the price of these properties does not suggest is available. Arkarola Wilderness Sanctuary, one of the great privately managed conservation areas in Australia, is accessible from Lee Creek as a regular excursion. One owner who bought in Lee Creek wrote, "I paid $26,000 for a house in a town with sealed roads, a supermarket, and a medical center. The town was built for a mine. The mine is gone. The infrastructure remains, and the price reflects the fact that most people do not know this combination is possible. I know it is possible because I live in it. The trade-off is the specific uncertainty of a town in transition. The identity that sustained it for 50 years is gone, and the new one is still being built. And the distance from major services in a region where the distances between things are genuinely significant. Picture this. It is an afternoon in Lee Creek. The sealed roads go where sealed roads go in a town built by a utility company that understood infrastructure. The Flinders Ranges are in every direction. The Gammon Ranges begin to the north. Your property cost $26,000 and has connected utilities and a supermarket 3 minutes away. The mine is gone. The town is still here. The price has not caught up with the reality of what is here. You arrived before it did. Number 4. Wobegor, New South Wales. Wobegor sits in the Pilliga Forest of northwestern New South Wales, population around 30 people, and it is the most forested entry on this list. A tiny community at the edge of the Pilliga, one of the largest areas of temperate woodland in the southern hemisphere, where the cypress pine and white box go for hours in every direction and the night sky above the trees has no city within range to interrupt it. Properties in Waubigar are available from between $15,000 and $45,000 for houses in varying conditions. The town had a brief moment of significance as a timber and agricultural service town in the early 20th century, and what remains is a scattering of structures, a pub that operates on uncertain hours, and the Pilliga Forest beginning at the edge of everything and continuing further than an afternoon's drive can establish. Narrabri, with a hospital and supermarkets, is 100 kilometers away. The cost of living is as low as anywhere in New South Wales for housing. The Pilliga Forest contains birdlife of extraordinary variety, a night sky of a quality that astronomers seek, and the Pilliga mouse, a species found nowhere else on Earth, going about its business in the woodland outside your property boundary. One property owner wrote, "I paid $22,000 for a house in Waubigar. The forest begins at the end of my yard. At night I hear things moving in it that I cannot always identify, and this has become the thing I most look forward to. The not knowing. The sense that the forest is larger than my understanding of it. That turns out to be exactly what I needed, and it cost $22,000 and a willingness to be in the Pilliga. The trade-off is genuine remoteness, very limited services, and the specific challenge of a community so small that the forest is a more reliable presence than the social life, which requires effort and intention rather than proximity." Picture this. It is a night in the Pilliga. The forest is doing what forests do in the dark, which is everything, quietly. Your property cost $22,000. The stars above the tree line are the stars that most of the country has stopped being able to see. Something moves in the forest. You do not know what it is. This is not ignorance. This is the correct relationship with a forest that is larger than your understanding of it. Your property cost $22,000 and it comes with this. Number 3. Silverton, New South Wales. Silverton sits 25 kilometers northwest of Broken Hill in the far west of New South Wales, population around 50 people, and it has been used as a filming location for more Australian films and television productions than any town of its size has any right to have been. Mad Max, A Town Like Alice, Razorback, and dozens of others have used its empty streets and corrugated iron buildings and vast sky as the backdrop for stories about isolation and endurance and the specific quality of light that the western New South Wales outback produces and that filmmakers keep returning to. Properties in Silverton are available from between $15,000 and $55,000 for houses in varying conditions. The town was established in 1883 during a silver rush and at its peak had 3,000 residents and 12 hotels. The silver ran out and the people left and the buildings stayed and the community contracted to its current 50 people, who live in a location where the light and the landscape have been recognized by serious artists for over a century and where the price of property has not caught up with that recognition. Broken Hill, with a hospital, supermarkets, regular flights to Sydney and Adelaide, and a surprisingly rich arts community, is 25 kilometers away. The cost of living in the broader region is around 23% below the national average. One property owner in Silverton wrote, "I paid $17,000 for a house in a town where Mad Max was filmed. The film crew uses my street as a backdrop approximately twice a year. My house is in the background of productions that show in cinemas. $17,000. The outback light that keeps bringing them back is outside my window every morning." The trade-off is genuine remoteness from specialist services beyond what Broken Hill provides, the very small community, and the specific quality of the far western New South Wales landscape, which is extraordinary and demanding and not for people who need green things close by. Picture this. It is late afternoon. The light is coming in flat and silver across the plain in the way that the light in Silverton comes in flat and silver, which is the way that has been bringing filmmakers and painters here for decades. Your property cost $17,000. The corrugated iron is doing something with the light that corrugated iron should not be able to do. The film crew was here last month. They will be back. The light keeps bringing them back. You live here. The light is yours every morning. Number 2. Barcaldine, Queensland. Barcaldine sits in central western Queensland, population around 1,400 people, and it is the birthplace of the Australian Labor Party, the Tree of Knowledge, a ghost gum under which the striking shearers met in 1891 that is considered the symbolic origin of the labour movement in Australia, still stands in the main street, now enclosed in a striking architectural installation that has become one of the most unexpected heritage sites in the country. Properties in Barcaldine are available from between $25,000 and $50,000 for houses in the lower price range, with the town having the infrastructure of a genuine regional centre, a hospital, a supermarket, a school, a pub, the services of a community that has been here for over 100 years and intends to remain. The cost of living is around 24% below the national average. Longreach, with expanded regional services and a domestic airport, is 107 kilometers west. The Channel Country of central western Queensland is the landscape, the Mitchell grass plains, the Cullibalind creek systems, the enormous sky of a flat country where nothing interrupts the horizon. The tree under which Australian workers decided that collective action was possible stands in the main street in an architectural case that is worth seeing on its own terms and that most Australians have never seen. One remote worker who bought in Barcaldine wrote, "I paid $31,000 for a house in the town where the Australian Labor Party was born. The Tree of Knowledge is on my walk to the supermarket. I pass it every day. The hospital is 4 minutes away. The property cost me less than the car I drove to get here, and I am still not sure that calculation makes sense by any measure I was previously using. The trade-off is the genuine remoteness of central western Queensland, summer heat, and the distance from the coast and major cities that makes the affordability possible and the accessibility challenging." Picture this. It is a morning in Barcaldine. The Tree of Knowledge is in its architectural enclosure on the main street. You walk past it on the way to the supermarket in the way that you walk past things that are on the way to the supermarket when they are on the way to the supermarket, with the specific familiarity of daily proximity. Your property cost $31,000. The hospital is 4 minutes away. The tree under which Australian workers decided something important in 1891 is on your regular walk. This is your ordinary morning. It cost $31,000 to make it yours. Number 1. Broken Hill Surrounds, New South Wales. Broken Hill itself is not the cheapest property market in Australia, but the properties available in the surrounding region, the small communities, the rural blocks, the older houses at the edges of the city itself, represent the top of this list because of what Broken Hill offers as a context for ownership at these prices. A full regional city with a hospital, galleries, restaurants, a functioning arts community, regular flights to Sydney and Adelaide, and a surrounding landscape that has been recognized as one of the great painting locations in the country since the Brushmen of the bush began working here in the 1970s. Properties in the Broken Hill region are available from between $12,000 and $45,000 in the lower price brackets. Some within the city limits, some in the surrounding areas. The Pro Hart Gallery, the Jack Absalom Gallery, the Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery, the Palace Hotel with its extraordinary Albert Namatjira mural. Broken Hill has the cultural infrastructure of a city 3 times its size because the isolation and the light attracted artists who built something here that the city has maintained. The cost of living is around 23% below the national average. The hospital covers a comprehensive range of services. Regular flights to Sydney and Adelaide mean that the isolation, while real, is manageable. The Barrier Highway connects the city to both South Australia and New South Wales. The Red Earth Arts Festival, the Broken Hill Races, the Mundi Mundi Plains, the cultural and landscape life of the Silver City is available to property owners at prices that have not existed in comparable cities for decades. One property owner who bought in Broken Hill wrote, "I paid $24,000 for a house in a city with an art gallery, a hospital, flights to Sydney, and the most extraordinary light I have seen in 30 years of painting. The Brushmen of the bush worked in this light for decades. I work in it every morning. $24,000. I have thought about this number every day since I paid it, and I have not yet arrived at a framework that makes it feel normal. I am not sure I want to. The trade-off is the genuine remoteness of far western New South Wales, the specific challenges of a city built on a declining mining base that is working to reinvent itself, and the distance from the coast and from the cities that most Australians orient their lives around. Picture this. It is a morning in Broken Hill. The light is doing what the light in Broken Hill does, which is the thing that the Brushmen of the bush spent decades trying to understand and that you now have access to every morning because you own a property here and the property cost $24,000. The art gallery opens at 10. The flight to Sydney leaves at 2 if you need it. The Monday planes are 45 minutes west and they go to the horizon without interruption. Your property cost $24,000. The light is yours. The planes are yours. The city, for what it costs, is yours. And in that quiet hush, beneath the whispering gums, in the dugout carved from opal country and the corrugated iron house in the filming location and the cottage at the edge of the Flinders Ranges and the property in the city where the artists came to find the light, I realized not all shadows hide. Some simply invite us to see. We just counted down 10 Australian properties you can buy for less than a car. Some are in towns of 30 people. Some are in communities with hospitals and flights to the city. Some have been waiting for owners for years. And all of them share one thing, a price that the rest of the property market has stopped believing is possible and that exists in these places precisely because most people have stopped believing it. The prices are real. The distances are real. The trade-offs are real. But so is the possibility that somewhere in the outback, in the goldfields, in the opal country, in the forest, in the city where the artists came to find the light, there is a property with your name on the title and a price that costs less than the car you would drive to reach it. If this video showed you something worth seeing, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a different kind of map. We will see you in the next one. This video expresses poetic and reflective storytelling. Property prices are based on publicly available information and may vary significantly. Always conduct thorough legal, financial, and structural due diligence before purchasing any property. It does not offer financial, legal, or real estate advice.